Welcome to 21st Century Radio. I'm Dr. Zohara Hieronimus. Laura Kortner is our executive producer and Anita Brockington, our engineer. Our guest this hour is world-renowned elephant whisperer, that's how I think of her, Carol Buckley. Carol is an American elephant caregiver who specializes in the trauma recovery and ongoing physical care of captive elephants. She is an international leader in trauma recovery of Asian and African elephants and has over 30 years' experience with elephants in captivity. She is co-founder of the first natural habitat refuge for sick, old, and needy endangered elephants, the Elephant Sanctuary in Tennessee. As the founder of Elephant Aid International in 2010, Carol Buckley has embarked on the next phase of her vision in opening a new center for elephants. After 15 years as CEO of the Elephant Sanctuary in Tennessee, building facilities and restoring 24 elephants to family and life in a natural habitat, Carol is taking her extensive knowledge and expertise to a wider stage. As she will explain, the need is great, both nationally and internationally, to continue the work of educating people about elephants and being able to offer abused and infirm animals who have been in circuses and other situations an opportunity to live more normal, autonomous decision-making lives, even if in sanctuary. Thank you so much for joining us, Carol.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
So I think it would be worth, if you don't mind, telling our audience a little bit about your own beginnings with Fluffy, or Tara, and how this all came about for you.
Well, I'm happy to. I was 19 years old and attending a exotic animal training school in Southern California, Moore Park College. And there was a tire store that had a baby elephant on exhibit. And I lived quite close, found out about this baby elephant, and immediately volunteered my time. And that was the beginning. Her name was Fluffy. She was less than a year old, had recently been imported from Asia, of course, wild-caught. And she has taken me on an amazing journey for the last 45 years.
You even point out in your biography of this situation that at one point you and she traveled around in circuses as shared entertainers, and that she was taught how to roller skate and other things. And you said that you had your own sort of epiphany, and you began to see that even what you were doing with her, though you loved her, cared for her, she loved you, wanted to do this with you, for you, that you viewed this as a form of abuse. Tell us about this moment in your life.
Well, it wasn't actually a moment. It was a process. And it was an accumulation of experiences really from the outside observer looking in on Tara and my relationship, that I soon learned that many people viewed our relationship and what we were doing, such as performing in circuses, traveling, and I think most poignant was the fact that people viewed our relationship as me being dominant over Tara. And I soon learned that many people looked at that in a very negative way. That was the first thing that, in all honesty, caught me seriously by surprise because of the depth of our relationship and how much we cared for each other. I was surprised to learn that people thought that this relationship was abusive. And I don't say it wasn't abusive, but because people viewed it that way in their projection or however, it caused me to rethink what I was doing and how I was doing it, because I didn't want to contribute, one, to, of course, animal suffering, but two, to the perception that that what I was doing with Tara was causing her pain and suffering. And so that happened when Tara was 13, and she was roller skating, which is something that she enjoyed. And it's maybe hard for people to understand how could an elephant enjoy roller skating. But if you are privy and fortunate enough to be able to be accepted into the life of an elephant and really get to know that animal, you will soon learn that they are highly evolved, incredibly complex, intelligent, creative, curious creatures. And just like a child, which Tara was at the time, they enjoy many things that we might think are odd. And all I could say to people was, you put children on roller skates. The kids like it. Yes, sometimes they even fall over, which elephants, Tara didn't. But it was in my mind a sort of a misconception about the depth of knowing and understanding and playfulness that an elephant has. But I realized that it was sending the wrong message. And I didn't want to send the wrong message about elephants in captivity and the lives that they have to live. And in that I started really to change how I did, what I did with Tara, to set an example of what I felt could be sort of the model for anyone, caring for an elephant. We want to make sure that they're well cared for, that they are loved, they know they're loved, their needs are met, and that we do send the correct message, and in that we educate properly.
Mm-hmm. That's a beautiful way to share that story. And talk to us a bit about, because not everybody is aware of what a natural elephant life is. Most people meet an elephant in a zoo, which is a most unnatural, deprived situation. And I know your dear friend and mine, Dr. Gay Bradshaw, with you together have written things, and her book, Elephants on the Edge, which really clarified this trans-species psychology, and that post-traumatic stress disorder is very real in the animal population, and the elephants go through such trauma when they're taken captive for zoos or entertainment facilities or circuses, even still around the world. So maybe our audience would benefit, I think, by hearing your deep love and appreciation for a natural elephant life.
Well, it is truly because of the time I've been allowed, to be with elephants and live with elephants, and I credit Tara completely for taking me on this journey, but all of her sisters and brothers have helped as well. Because Tara taught me about elephants, I was able then to evaluate or reevaluate the way that we keep elephants in captivity. And I will admit that so much of it is ignorance.
Mm-hmm.
People are not harming elephants because they want to. Truly, they don't get it. And the ones that do get it are doing a better job than some. But elephants are family-oriented. They grow at the same rate that we do. They mature at the same rate that we do. So they go through infancy, terrible twos, the preteens, the teenage time, and then they become an adult. Highly social. They desperately need to be with other elephants to feel secure and safe. And then they will make close friends with some and then not with others. There's so many things that are very much like human, but not human, but things that we can relate to. So with Tara, as she grew, and I was with her for all those stages, and I always said, she's a step ahead of me. Just when I think I understand this, and I think a new mother of a child, the first-time mother, can say, oh gosh, I get that, is that just when I thought I understood this phase or this age, then boom, she's into the next thing. And I felt like I was continually struggling to continue to understand her and then to find out, why is she acting the way she is? What are her needs now? And her needs changed. As she grew and became older and more mature, her needs changed, and I started to really be able to identify that. So by the time she was probably 17, she was acting like a 17-year-old. She had hormones just coursing through her body. One day she'd be happy. The next day she's grouchy as she can be. She didn't want to do anything. Nothing made her happy. And then the next day she'd be silly. And I thought, what am I doing wrong? Why is she not contented? And I, of course, learned about her biology. But secondly, I looked at her and went, she needs to be an elephant. And by that time, I had done quite a bit of research and thought that I knew something about elephants. What I did know is what I learned from studying elephants in the wild. So studying work from people who live with elephants in the wild, so like Cynthia Moss. And from that information, I identified that how I was keeping Tara, or how I was allowing her to live, was not natural for her. So she needed to be in a large open space with access to a diverse environment with lots of different things, trees and pastures and creeks and streams, to keep her very intelligent mind very active and stimulated. And I realized at that point, female Asian elephants really do need other female elephants around them to feel secure and to grow and to learn and to evolve into who they really are. And then the other thing that I was learning, and this was the slow process, how important autonomy is. So what we tend to do, and we is just sort of, generally speaking, animal people who care about the welfare of animals, we sometimes overdo this idea that these animals need us. Yes, they need us to provide a healthy environment for them to have autonomy, but they don't need us to smother them with our expectations of what all of this that we need to do for them and be there for them and protect them and coddle them. That is, in my experience, just a killer for elephants. They need autonomy, especially these adult elephants. They are adults. Their mind works as an adult. They are an adult. They need to be treated as an adult, and it needs to be understood how highly intelligent and evolved they are. We need to provide a healthy environment for them that is safe. You do that by fencing it in. That provides them with all that they need, which is live vegetation, a diverse habitat, compatible other elephants, a good climate, and then we need to step out of the way. Now, we don't need to isolate ourselves away from them. We are part of their family. We need to act like part of their family, but we no longer need to control them, dominate them, establish schedules for them. Let them create their schedules, and we follow that. So this is what Tara taught me: autonomy, space, compatible others, and autonomy. And in all actuality, that's fairly simple to accomplish.
Well, and what you did, though, was so new. In 1994, you took out a bank loan, you bought 112 acres in Tennessee, you built a barn for Tara, you co-founded the Elephant Sanctuary there, and really the first natural habitat for sick, old, and needy elephants. And it's today, it's 2,700 acres now, and it houses African and Asian elephants in separate sections, as I read online, enclosed by 20 miles of fencing. But that wasn't where you stopped, and so we'll take a little break, and we'll come back and talk about your other work of the Elephant Refuge North America, ERNA, that you are founding now in Georgia, as well as the Elephant Aid International and your work with Mayots in India and Asia. If you're just joining us, Carol Buckley is our guest, and I know some of you have seen a number of videos online, and we'll try to address some of those. You can find her. Where is my list of where we'll find her? ElephantAidInternational.org. That's where. Also on Facebook at Elephant Aid International. So go to ElephantAidInternational.org, and you can make a contribution. You can support some of her work that she's about to do in another part of the world. We'll be right back.
Hello, this is Jenny Brown, author of The Lucky Ones, My Passionate Fight for Farm Animals. You can learn more about me and my work as an animal activist and promoter of veganism at speakerjennybrown.com. You're listening to 21st Century Radio with Dr. Zohara Hieronimus.
Welcome back to 21st Century Radio. Carol Buckley is our guest, and you can learn more about her beautiful work at ElephantAidInternational.org. She is the founder, president, and CEO, and they work for the retirement, rehabilitation, and welfare of captive held elephants using innovative models. Carol, there are so many stories, and I'm not quite sure which one's the most important, but why don't we talk about your founding of Elephant Aid International and what you're focused on?
Oh, I'd be happy to. Elephant Aid International is really a project that I'm so proud of because it's very different. I started it in 2010, and the goal was to actually go to Asia and Africa and do research to see where the help was needed, what I could do to help, and to really just investigate what's out there and what's needed. When I got to Asia, it was overwhelming because there is so much need. It's everywhere. Elephants are everywhere. Captive held elephants are everywhere, and the need is insurmountable. So after the first year of research, I came back and had a list of things that I thought that I could best do. I really wanted to do things that I knew that I could do alone, so that I wouldn't have to have a big crew, and that I knew it would be of great service to elephants. And so we came up with the list of 3 simple things. We're going to train mahouts. Mahouts are the elephant caregivers in Asia. We're going to train them, give them additional tools in how to handle and care for their elephants in a more gentle, a kinder manner. They only know one way. They've never seen anything else. And I felt strongly that we could assist in that. And, of course, helping the mahouts is going to, in turn, help the elephants. The second thing was to provide elephant pedicures. And that was also something I noticed was, although in some locations there was some foot care, but in most locations not. And I learned it was because in the past elephants were kept in the jungles. They were used for logging. They were used for other things where they got to live in their natural habitat. And so that habitat and their natural activity kept their foot pads and their nails trimmed as they should be. But more recently, elephants have been brought into captivity, into a really very captive situation in a more less rural, more city situation, to where they're confined, they're on chains, they're kept in one spot, their physical activity is reduced, and among other things. The result was that their feet become overgrown, their foot pads and their nails become overgrown, leading to all kinds of problems, including infection, osteomyelitis. So I felt I could provide pedicures, and that would, of course, benefit the elephants. And the third thing was I was shocked to see that how elephants were contained in Asia, and it makes perfect sense. There's very little space for anyone, and hardly any space for elephants. So all elephants, I shouldn't say all, but the majority of elephants are kept on chains, and that's how they're contained and confined to a certain space so they don't wander off. And they're chained in different manners. Mostly what I saw was elephants chained with their ankles chained together, and that pegged to the ground, or elephants on all 4 legs chained, or 2 front legs and 1 back leg, and the reality is they can't move. They simply can't move around, and the chains are damaging to them both physically and psychologically. So I thought, these are our 3 projects. We're going to get elephants off chains, we're going to trim their feet, and we're going to train them how. So that's what we've been doing for 10 years, almost 10 years, and it has been incredibly gratifying because we've been able to provide service for these animals, mostly in India, Thailand, and Nepal. And Nepal has been the greatest success because the government has really worked closely with us on all 3 of these projects, and in fact, in 2015, invited us to create chain-free corrals for all of their 68 elephants, every elephant under their control. 68 chain-free corrals in Chitwan National Park. So we built corrals in the middle of nowhere in national parks. They were all solar-powered, which was important because in Nepal and in many parts of Asia, electricity is iffy. So we were able to build these corrals where elephants that had been chained for decades, for 50 years, were now allowed to be chain-free during the time that they weren't working. That, to me, is the most gratifying project that we have.
That's lovely. And
Yeah,
in terms of the
amazing.
work that they're doing with the elephants, describe for us how elephants are employed for what kind of labor other than entertainment and elephant rides.
Sure. So the government-owned elephants are anti-poaching elephants. So they all live either inside or on the periphery of the national park, and their day starts about 6 a.m., where their mount mounts them bareback, rides actually on their neck, and they go into the national park. They are looking for signs of poaching. They're not following poachers. They're not endangering the elephants' lives by actually hunting for poachers, but they're looking for signs of poaching. And and then they spend the whole day in the national park. They are eating natural vegetation. They're walking on natural substrate through varied vegetation and different types of soil, which is really good for their feet. They are in a low-stress situation because they're not out with the public. They're not performing. They're not doing rides. They are really in their natural habitat, but they are dominated, so they do have a mahout that's telling them what to do. They're out there till about 3 in the afternoon. They come back home anywhere from 3 to 4 in the afternoon. And if they are not in a chain-free corral at that point, at 4 in the afternoon, they're put on chains, and they stay on chains in a what's called a hatisar, which is the elephant stable. So they're there in the hatisar until 6 a.m. the next morning when they head out for work again. Now, those are government-owned elephants. Privately owned elephants are used for in Nepal are used for entertainment. They do elephant rides, and they do elephant rides 7 days a week, and the number of elephant rides that they do depends on the number of tourists that are there. So in the high tourist season, they can be doing rides from 7 in the morning until after dark. In the low tourist season, maybe they'll do 1 or 2 rides a day, but this is very hard work for them. It's usually older elephants. Their diets are very poor because they do not have access to natural elephant vegetation. They're not allowed to get elephant grass out of the national park. So they actually feed elephants dried grasses that are rice, stems of rice plant. It's not nutritious for elephants, and actually the elephants don't like it at all, and they have to be forced to eat. They supplement them with rice, so their diets are very poor, therefore they're not as healthy as they should be. They're overworked, and usually in very hot climates they're overworked, and they are not allowed to interact or socialize with other elephants.
Which, of course, is so critical, and I know from our interviews with Dr. Gay Bradshaw over the decade that this is something that is so important for humans to appreciate in the same way, human socialization is important for proper development. I know you're headed to Nepal this November of 2019 to train mahouts in foot trimming. Share with us a little bit about that, and maybe some people in our audience will want to help support that effort.
Yes, it's an awesome program. This is called our Elephant Foot Trimming Workshop, and we try and do this twice a year. And we'll be there the end of November, and we are just focusing on Zohara, Nepal, which is Chitwan National Park area. There are over 200 elephants that live in the area. I'm familiar with all of them because I trim their feet annually. It is really fabulous now because the program has gone from the sort of the one-woman show. I would go there and I would trim feet of all these elephants. But as years have gone by, the mahouts are getting comfortable with me. They recognize that I'm there for the welfare of their elephant and for them, and so they're finally being more receptive to me teaching them how to trim feet. And in the last couple of years, it's been fabulous because when I arrive at a hatisar at the elephant stable, all the mahouts come out and they're ready. They're ready to trim feet. So that, to me, that is what we're looking for. We're looking for sustainability. I could go there every year, and trim feet, but that's not sustainable.
Right.
You've got to train those mahouts how to not only trim feet, but to find a lot of joy and pride in doing it so that you make it sustainable. So this year we're doing Sponsor a Mahout, and we're asking people, please sponsor a mahout so that these mahouts from all over Nepal can come to my workshop. So with the sponsorship, with the $50 sponsorship, what you're paying for is transportation for the mahout to get to us, feeding him for that day. If he needs to spend the night, giving him a place to sleep, giving him a foot trimming packet with all the tools that he needs, a certificate of participation, of course, which they hold so dear, and then a stipend, a reward for coming, spending the day, and learning how to trim feet. So we're very excited about this. We've already had 70 mahouts are sponsored. Our goal is 100. So with each time I go back, I see more interest, mostly from the young mahouts, and they're the ones who are going to change how elephants are cared for in Asia.
That's beautiful. So if our audience goes to elephant-aid-international.org under the workshops and sponsor a mahout, right, they can participate
Correct.
in that way. And are they now also affecting the general culture? Because as you pointed out, these are government-owned elephants and they're taken care of. But then you have all the other elephants that are used for entertainment and don't live well and are very sick, many of them. Is this part of the culture affecting the other part of the culture so that maybe they'll stop using elephants for rides and that part of the economy?
Well, it is. It's not just our work, of course, that's affecting the culture, but every effort made by an individual or a group combined is really causing a shift. Now, when I do my workshops, it's not just government elephants. I also offer my services to the privately owned elephants. So we actually go to the ride area where they're doing rides, and we trim elephant feet at the ride area. So we're now influencing these other mahouts, which are not government, mahouts. These are not government employees. These are private employees. They are actually, in my opinion, in a worse state than the government mahouts. They're treated poorly. They have very poor living conditions. They're paid poorly, and their work is just so hard. So if their life is so bad and they're feeling so bad, you can imagine how they treat their elephant. But it's not their elephant. They don't own the elephant. This is a job for them. Mm-hmm. So all of that together is not a very good situation. So with us coming out and trimming the feet of their elephants and treating them with respect and showing them that we're concerned for them and we want to help them, that is creating sort of this undercurrent where they're feeling better about themselves. And then while we're trimming feet, of course, all these tourists that are riding elephants are saying what's going on. Mm-hmm. And we're able then in that moment, to give some information, say what we're doing, say why we're doing it, ask them why they're doing what they're doing,
right,
which is to ride the elephant. And do you know what it takes for you to be safe on an elephant? Do you know what the mahout has to do to that elephant to make it safe for you to ride? Instead of just saying don't ride the elephant, let them know why it's not a good idea. So, I think things are really changing, and I do see, because we return to this location over and over again, I've seen it go from a really horrendous environment to much more willing to change, much more willing to listen to advice and to accept advice and to do things differently.
Well, you can see that your work and others in the community who are against the breaking of elephants and the horrendous just breaking of their minds and their emotions and their feelings. It's not just sit and stay, as you point out. And when anybody takes the time to actually look at how elephants are broken, whether it's for riding or for circuses or for zoos, it's heartbreaking. And none of these elephants can be healthy. And then when they go into sanctuary, it takes so long for them to experience, as you point out, autonomy and healthy life again and healthy emotional and psychological well-being. I mean, I was reading that there's still about 70 elephants in circuses and traveling shows in the United States, and that's already a reduction. So we're seeing a cultural shift happen about the abuse that elephants are subject to under human demand.
Well, and the 70 that you speak about is only in the U.S.
Right.
There's actually over 400 elephants in the U.S. that are living outside of sanctuary refuge situations. So over 400 elephants are still living in situations where they don't have autonomy. And it's varying degrees of unwell for them. But that's 400 just in the U.S. So I look at us. I look at how we speak out about the great injustice that's done to animals in around the world. We really do need to look in our own backyard because they're still there, and I do see that in the circus industry, and I feel strongly that the circus industry has actually helped the shift because they're out there. They don't have a backyard to hide in. You can't hide anything at a circus. It's all there. And I really think because they have had to be so wide open, people have seen, what it takes for an elephant to be trained and to work and to give rides and do shows, and that in reality has benefited the change. But when you get to an institution that opens its doors at sometime in the morning and closes in the evening, and has animals locked behind closed doors, it's not so easy to learn how are they kept, how are they trained, what is missing, what do they need. So I really credit circus for helping elephants to get to the point where they are now, to where sanctuary is an option for elephants. You don't see sanctuaries set up for other zoo animals yet. It'll happen, but I have to say, I credit circuses for this.
That's
I'm
fascinating.
Thankful.
Well, it's a very interesting, way in which sort of the, what do they call those, unintentional consequences. Mm-hmm. But when we come back, we're going to take our last break. We'll talk about Elephant Refuge of North America and what you're doing now, exactly that, to address the great need for more and more sanctuary for so many elephants that do need to be retired from oppression. I think that's the best way I think of it, and that they can experience some part of a natural life in company with other elephants, even if they aren't their natural herd. And I think, that's one of the things people forget, that the females stay together for life in a natural environment, and the bulls also stay with their moms and their aunties and their sisters until they're about 10, and then go and they become habituated with male elephants. But in the imprisonment industry, that's how I have to think about it. In zoos as multi-species prisons, that's how I have to think of it. It's also unnatural, and it's so much suffering for these great beasts who, to me, are the most wise and compassionate. I call them the Buddhic beings on the planet. To me, the elephants are the Buddha, and they teach us what that is, to be so centered in love and compassion. We'll be right back. Our guest is Carol Buckley, ElephantAidInternational.org. Don't forget to go to their workshops and sponsor a Mayhout, and you can take part in a change for the good.
Hello, this is Dr. Gay Bradshaw. I'm the Executive Director of the Kerulos Center, www.kerulos.org, KERULOS.org. Our organization is dedicated to bringing dignity and freedom for all animals. You're listening to 21st Century Radio with Dr. Zohara Hieronimus.
Welcome back to 21st Century Radio. There's dear sister Gay Bradshaw, who introduced me to our guest this hour, Carol Buckley of Elephant Aid International. Find them online at elephantAidInternational.org and take part in helping their effort as they head to Nepal this November to train the Mayhouts in foot trimming. And now that you've learned what that's all about and how important it is, your $50 donation makes a profound difference in bringing a Mayhout to the skills and compassionate understanding that benefit they and the elephant in their care. One of the things, before we get to your new Elephant Refuge in North America in Georgia, or Elephant Refuge North America in Georgia, ERNA, is how many elephants are still killed in Africa. I was reading that 100 African elephants are killed each day by poachers.
Well, I must admit that I am not personally familiar, with the statistics about that.
Okay.
But I too have heard that it's still in the hundreds weekly. Cynthia Moss is an amazing researcher, and she's spent her whole life living in Africa, her adult life. So for 40 years she's been studying the elephants there, and she would be a fabulous person for you to speak to give you all the true insight about what's going on.
Thank you, because
and,
I had
and
read
what they're doing.
Well, I had read some report that China was promising to no longer import as one of the major importers of ivory and body parts and whatnot for their custom-made medicines. Is it true that they are no longer going to import ivory?
Well, they say they're not. We'll see.
Right, exactly. All right. Thank you. I always wonder, Zoe, are you losing your mind? You did read that, right? But I haven't seen any follow-up. So now you're doing something really thrilling, which is you founded the Refuge in Tennessee, and then you are now founding another one called ERNA, Elephant Refuge North America in Georgia. So talk to us about this, and congratulations.
Well, thank you. It's very exciting. 3 years ago, we decided that we felt it was time to start the next generation of elephant sanctuary, and we have had a very clear vision of what we wanted to be able to offer for elephants now. And so we are calling it Elephant Refuge, and that's a very conscious choice to call it a refuge. This is a retirement facility, a retirement natural habitat for elephants coming to a time in their life when they can be retired from zoos or circuses. And we follow the same philosophy that I created the sanctuary in Tennessee with, but I feel like, over the last 25 years, we've learned a few more things, and so we're able to apply that. So the biggest reason that we're in South Georgia is the weather, because I really knew that we needed to have a climate that was a little bit warmer than, our climate in Tennessee. Because as these elephants age, just like with people, arthritis becomes an issue. And with a young, very active elephant, it's really not an issue. But with an older elephant, it is. So we searched and searched. It took us over 2 years to find the land. We're on 850 acres. It is glorious. It's elephant-friendly. Every acre of this land will be able to be utilized by the elephants because the topography is gentle. There are forests, pastures, streams, creeks, spring heads, everything that I was hoping for this land offers, and a very mild winter. So there's only about 3-4 weeks in January where elephants will actually want to utilize their barn, but the rest of the time they're going to want to be out in the habitat. So we completed construction, all the infrastructure of the fencing. We've got 60,000 foot of fencing, so we fenced in the whole 850 acres, broke it into 3 sections, actually 3 sections in with one inside the other. So we've got a 100-acre quarantine facility with the barn. We've got a 7-acre annex yard that's connected, and that will be where a brand new retiring elephant will come if she's a little insecure. Most of the time, zoo elephants are very insecure about space, so you want to give them a space where they feel more confined, they feel safer, and then as they build confidence and they meet the other elephants, then they want to go into the larger yard, which will be the 100-acre yard, and then that expands out into the 750-acre area. So we're very excited about this, and we're doing a different thing. When I started the sanctuary in Tennessee, my goal was to rescue as many elephants as I could. We did that, and it changed. Things changed. Now it's not so much a matter of rescuing. It is now a matter of continued education and retirement. So, and what I mean by that is many zoos have improved their facilities. The mindset about elephants is changing. So it's not so much about rescue. It really is about seeing if we can get, more elephants into a situation of retirement. So we're looking at not rescuing as many elephants as we can, but creating a very bonded group, helping to create a very bonded, compatible group of elephants that is reflective of how they would live, how they would be in the wild. So that's a small herd.
Right.
With Asian elephants, that's anywhere from 5 to maximum 10 individuals creating a herd. So I'm doing this because I want to create a model.
Mm-hmm.
I really want to see what is the healthiest, best way for these elephants to live if they have to live in captivity. So we're working on that. Now, the land could hold many more elephants, but that's not the goal. The goal is to see how do we really give them the healthiest, least stressed situation, and that is to really look at and duplicate how they might live in the wild.
That's beautiful. And I was reading how you and Dr. Bradshaw have done some collaborative work, and the whole issue of cultural brokerage or culturally brokering between, the culture of human and the culture of elephant. Can you share a little bit about that while we have a little left time
Well,
left?
first I want to say that Gay is a genius, and what she has helped to contribute to the knowledge for elephant welfare is profound and has been really, really important for the humans to learn more about elephants, and then of course that has benefited elephants. But there's something that's very important to me, and I don't think it's so well known or even has been a topic of conversation yet. And I'm hoping that in the very near future this is going to be something we're going to be talking about. And that is that these elephants that are living in captivity, and I call them captive-held elephants, because they're not captive elephants. They're not Asian elephant, African elephant, captive elephant. They are captive-held elephants, so they're prisoners. And it's just what kind of prison are they living in?
Mm-hmm.
And these animals are highly social, and most of them are caught, captured from the wild, but most of them have lived with humans. And the idea or suggestion that every captive-held elephant has had nothing but negative experience with humans is false. There are many who have had poor experiences. There are many that never bonded with people. They were never in a situation where they felt safe, and they didn't have people who cared properly or enough for them. But there are even more elephants, and this I refer to, and it's hard for people to accept this. Many, many circus elephants have had a healthier upbringing than elephants that live in zoos, because up to 10 years ago, elephants were living solitary in zoos, and it was accepted and felt it was all right. And that elephant really was alone, because at 5 o'clock at night, the caregiver, the keeper, went home, and the elephant was left alone in her barn. But circus was different, and circus elephants, the lucky ones, were very well cared for family members. Now, even if you don't want to believe that they're well cared for family members, they were part of a family, and that is how they grew. So they grew up seeing these humans as part of their herd. So the way I look at it is, if we give elephants more, if we try to give them what they would have had, so that has to be the autonomy, the space, compatible other elephants that they're comfortable with. If we give them all of that, they still don't have complete freedom, okay? But we can also give them something more, and that is the companionship of the other species that they are comfortable with, and that includes humans. Now, I am not talking about strangers going in with elephants. I'm absolutely against that. But I am also equally as opposed to depriving a captive-held elephant that was raised by people who treated her well, depriving her of those people. That is harmful to her psychologically. I believe you can wean her from those people if she is with elephants that she's highly compatible with. But I really hope that we start to see elephants in the big, larger picture of how evolved they are. That if we take an elephant that has been with people that she likes, and we say she's going to have to make a choice. She either gets to stay with those people, or she has to go over here with these elephants and she doesn't get her people anymore. We're not doing that at ERNA. At ERNA, we're saying we're giving her everything she needs and wants. And if she has family that she's attached to, they're included. She gets to go and she gets to learn to live with other elephants. And if eventually she says, oh, those people are nice, but I don't need them anymore, that's fine, but that's going to be her choice.
So beautiful. I mean, the work you do is so important for the world, not just elephants either, because there's so many other species that have had a similar kind of life. Just the elephant, as I said to me after writing about them for a number of years, to me they are representative of Buddhic consciousness. They are the most compassionate, loving beings. And I hope that all of your work throughout your lifetime results in really just a great bounty for yourself and all the elephants. And I hope Elephant Refuge North America in Georgia succeeds, and that our audience goes to elephantaidinternational.org and you go and you support one of the Mayhalt's foot trimming expedition in Nepal. God bless you, Carol.
Happy ever after. I hope we can all live fearlessly.
Stay connected and stay informed on the #1 news talk station, Talk Radio 680, WCBM, Baltimore, and WCBM.com.